Jewish wives have done this for 2,000 years. My grandmother did it every time the family moved. She walked into the new kitchen before anything else, before any furniture came in, before anything was unpacked. She knelt down and quietly poured a pile of salt, coarse white salt, placed with complete deliberateness. We would stand in the doorway and watch her. When we asked her why, she looked up slowly. She said, "Salt does not let wealth leave the home." That was all the explanation she ever gave. She stood up and walked back to her unpacking. I did not fully understand what I was seeing then, but I never forgot the way she moved, quiet, certain, unhurried, like she was finishing a prayer. And tonight I'm going to show you why. Most people think wealth leaves through bad decisions. They blame the job, the economy, or their spending. Jewish mothers knew that the real problem was different. They taught that wealth does not just leave through choices, it leaves through a home that cannot hold it, and the holding place of the home is the kitchen. Think about what the kitchen actually is. It is where provision enters your household every single day. Every nourishment, every warmth, every abundance enters there first. The kitchen is the provision room of the entire home, and if the kitchen is spiritually unanchored, it leaks. What flows in simply flows right back out. You have felt this in your own life. Money comes in and it somehow does not stay. Something always absorbs it before you can hold it. Jewish grandmothers diagnosed that problem in the kitchen, not at the bank, not at the office, in the kitchen, at the corners, with salt. This ritual takes 30 seconds and costs almost nothing, and almost no one outside Jewish homes has ever known it. I know what you might be thinking right now. Salt seems far too simple to do anything real, but that simplicity is exactly what makes it powerful. Jewish grandmothers never protected wealth through complicated systems. They did not need investment accounts or financial strategies. They used quiet, physical, domestic actions done inside the home, done carefully, privately, when no one was watching. My grandmother had a saying I have never forgotten. She said, "The women who keep the salt keep the house, and the house that keeps its salt keeps its wealth." She said it like it was a simple, observable fact, because for her generation, it was a fact. Something seen across decades, passed down quietly through kitchens. Before I show you the ritual, you need the root. Salt in Jewish tradition is not simply a cooking ingredient, it is one of the most sacred materials in the Torah. In Numbers chapter 18, verse 19, God spoke to Aaron. He declared, "This is a covenant of salt forever." In Hebrew, this is called Brit Melach, a salt covenant, permanent, unbreakable, enduring across every generation that follows. Salt was chosen for this covenant for one reason: salt does not rot and it does not decay. It preserves everything it touches across centuries of time. Jewish mothers applied this understanding directly to the home. When you place salt deliberately in your household, you invoke permanence. You are saying with your hands, what is here stays. This is why salt sits beside the challah every Shabbat, not only for flavor, but for the covenant it carries. Every Shabbat table is a covenant table because of that salt. The kitchen corner ritual is built on this exact same foundation. You are not performing a chore when you place this salt. You are extending the covenant of permanence into your four walls. Now, I am going to give you the ritual exactly, not a rough version, not a general approximation. The exact steps as they were passed down through Jewish homes. The first thing to understand is which corners you use. You are not placing salt in the corners nearest the door. You are placing it in the two corners furthest from entrance. The entrance corners govern what comes in and goes out. The far corners are where wealth settles and rests. Think of water finding its way to the lowest point. The far corners are where abundance gathers in an ordered home. That is exactly where the salt needs to go. Second, you must use coarse salt and not fine salt. This distinction matters far more than most people realize. Watch what happens when you spill fine salt on a surface. One small movement and it scatters and disappears completely. Now place coarse salt carefully on that same surface. It stays exactly where you put it. It holds its shape, its weight, its position faithfully. Jewish grandmothers said, this is not a coincidence at all. Fine salt disperses like money in an unanchored household. Coarse salt holds like money in a home that knows its rules. You use coarse salt because you are choosing holding over scattering. Third, the amount is specific and should not be guessed. You pour a cupped handful into each far corner. Not a small pinch, not a full mound, a cupped handful. Enough to be clearly visible when you look at that corner. Enough that the intention behind the placing carries real weight. Fourth, pay attention to what you say while placing it. Some grandmothers spoke a full blessing over the household provision. Others said nothing at all but held a very clear intention. The deliberateness of the act matters more than specific words. If you say anything, say this quietly. This home holds what it receives. Say it once while your hand is still in the corner. Say it like you mean it, because you do. Fifth, what happens if the salt is ever disturbed? A child scatters it or a broom moves it by accident. Do not treat a disturbed corner as a curse or bad sign. It simply means the seal needs to be quietly renewed. Replace the salt before nightfall on the same day. That is the full ritual, exactly as it was handed down. Now here's what Jewish grandmothers told their daughters next. Watch the home carefully for 48 hours after placing the salt. The home will speak to you in those first 2 days. Jewish grandmothers were not mystical women who demanded blind faith. They were practical women who said, observe and you will see. The first sign is what I call the unexpected return. Money you had forgotten about finds its way back to you. A refund you had stopped expecting appears in your account. An old debt someone owed is suddenly and quietly repaid. A bill that had seemed final resolves unexpectedly in your favor. This is wealth that was already yours coming back home. The corners are doing their first work. Calling back what belongs, the second sign is what grandmothers called the loosening. A financial conversation that had been frozen suddenly begins moving. A decision someone had been delaying is finally made. A door that had felt permanently stuck swings quietly open. Jewish mothers believed that an anchored home frees stuck energy. When the corners are sealed, the rest of the home opens. Things that were blocked find a way to move forward. The third sign is the one that surprises people most. It is a deep, settled calm that enters the kitchen. Not peace from solving a problem, not relief from good news, just a quiet presence in the room that was not there. Jewish mothers taught that kitchen calm and household finances are linked. Anxiety in the kitchen is an ancient sign of financial misalignment. When the kitchen settles, the household finances begin settling with it. You do not need all three signs to know it is working. Even one sign in the first 48 hours is enough. It is enough to understand why grandmother never went without her salt. Now I want to share a specific variation of this ritual, one that Jewish grandmothers kept for the harder seasons in life. Not ordinary times, but times when debt had entered the home. When money was not just leaving, it had already left. For ordinary times, coarse salt alone in the corners is enough. But for times of active debt, grandmother used something different. She would take the coarse salt and add dried bay leaf, a small amount mixed gently together before going into the corners. Bay leaf, in Jewish home tradition, carries a quality of clearing. It was used in the home to remove what did not belong. Salt holds what is yours and what belongs to this household. Bay leaf removes what is blocking that holding from taking place. Together, they address both the visible problem and the deeper root. The debt sitting in the home is the visible symptom. The misalignment that allowed it in is the deeper root. When grandmother used this version, she spoke clearly while placing it. She did not use a long prayer or a complicated blessing. She said one sentence out loud with full quiet intention. She would say, "What belongs to this house stays here. What does not belong to this house leaves now." 2 sentences only, spoken with total clarity and conviction. This is not magic and it is not superstition. It is a declaration made physical through deliberate household action. Jewish grandmothers understood that the home responds to what we do inside it. Not just what we feel, not only what we pray, what we physically, deliberately, and intentionally do inside the 4 walls. Some people ask, why the kitchen and not the front door? Or why not the bedroom, where wealth is also deeply held? This is a fair question, and the answer truly matters. Each room in the Jewish home has its own spiritual function. The front door is the territory of entry and protection. The mezuzah on the doorpost is a front door teaching and practice. It guards what arrives and what departs through that threshold. That is front door wisdom, and it has its own conversation. The bedroom governs rest, marriage, and intimate provision between spouses. Bedroom wisdom is profound, and it is its own complete world, but the kitchen is different from both of those spaces. The kitchen is where provision is received and then transformed. Food comes in raw and leaves the kitchen as real nourishment. Ingredients come in separate and leave the kitchen as a Shabbat meal. The kitchen takes what enters and makes it into something sustaining. That is its sacred function inside the Jewish home, and that is precisely why the corners of this room hold wealth. When you seal the kitchen corners, you are not asking wealth to come. You are creating the spiritual condition for wealth to stay. The invitation for wealth happens through prayer and through work. The holding of wealth happens in the kitchen, and the salt is the seal on that holding. Tonight, before you go to sleep, do one thing. Go. Find the two corners that are furthest from the entrance. Take a cupped handful of coarse salt for each corner. Pour it into each corner with full, quiet deliberateness. Hold the intention clearly as your hand moves through the action. Say quietly, "This home holds what it receives." Stand up and let the salt do what salt has it's always done. Come back here and write one thing in the comments. Write, "I am placing the salt tonight." That statement is your declaration and your commitment to this practice. When you write it, you are not simply leaving a comment. You are joining 2,000 years of Jewish wives and mothers, women who understood that the home is where wealth is truly kept, women who knew that the kitchen corner is not just a corner, it is the place where the covenant of permanence lives. If tonight's teaching resonated with you, please subscribe now. In my next video, I will show you something powerful. Every week, Jewish grandmothers place something specific on the Shabbat table, not for the meal, for the money and the provision. Most Jewish families today have no idea this tradition even existed. That video is coming, and you will want to see it. Until then, go to your kitchen corners tonight. Place the salt with intention and let it hold for you. May your kitchen hold everything it receives. May everything that belongs to you stay.